Coming up on WFT Midday, record cold hitting much of the country, including north central Florida. The UF weather team is tracking when we can expect a warm-up.
Plus, U.S. officials are in the midst of negotiations to end the Russia-Ukraine war, how both countries are responding to the peace talks.
And President Donald Trump makes his lap around the Daytona 500 race a second for any president. WFT Midday starts right now.
You're watching WUFT Midday.
North Central Florida is in the middle of a big temperature swing, and the UF weather team says you're going to need that jacket for much of the week. This is WF Midday. I'm Krystal Felix.
And I'm Madison Ginsberg. Florida's colder weather is part of what some are calling a polar vortex that is gripping much of the country. Let's get right over to UF forecaster Rhianan Beatrice, who is live in the studio. Rhianan, temperatures today are not expected to get out of the 60s.
That's right, Madison. On the other side of the storms, we are seeing clear skies, but that does mean we are seeing cooler temperatures as that cold air comes behind those storms. As you can see, 56 degrees, even though it looks beautiful here in campus. So temperatures in North Florida, we are starting to get into the 50s as we go into the afternoon, with temperatures approaching the 60s farther south. But overall, we're still feeling a very chilly afternoon. What we're looking at right now are two pressure systems. This high pressure system that is bringing cooler air to us, but really what we will focus on is this low pressure system behind it. It has the potential to bring some severe weather to our area come Wednesday. And hour by hour, we're going to see clear skies for the rest of the today with a high of 62 degrees. And then as we go into the evening hours, we're going to see temperatures drop into the 40s, which will be very chilly as we go to bed. Coming up on First Weather, we are going to see cooler temperatures as throughout the rest of the week, Wednesday storms, and some flash flooding possible.
And with the colder weather comes Gainesville's Cold Night Shelter program. When overnight temperatures hit below 45 degrees, neighbors can head to two shelters for warmth. St. Francis House is reserved for families, women, and children, while Grace Marketplace primarily serves individual adults.
Potentially record-setting, historic, and deadly. Those are the words meteorologists are using to sum up back-to-back storms hitting the U.S. Amy Kiley details how the country is recovering from one and bracing for another.
Your temperatures are certainly going to drop.
An Arctic blast could bring potentially record-setting cold to the U.S. this week. Forecasters say wind chills could hit -50 near the Canadian border over the next couple days and below zero in parts of Texas. They predict snow and wintry rain will push east from the plains tomorrow. It could hit areas still reeling from a deadly and historic weekend storm.
It's saving as many lives as we can. It's positioning our assets, our swift water boat teams, not just where flooding is happening, but where we know it's coming.
Kentucky has the highest death toll from the weekend weather. Video from that state shows floods submerging homes, businesses, vehicles, and roads. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear calls the storm one of his state's most serious weather events in at least a decade. He says the deaths include at least one child. Beshear credits emergency responders with performing more than 1,000 rescues in under 24 hours.
We'll move from the rescues themselves to going door to door in the flooded areas to make sure that everyone is okay.
Virginia, West Virginia, and Tennessee also are recovering from floods, and officials report more than 200,000 power outages in Alabama, Georgia, and West Virginia from the weather. Today, the storm is moving out, leaving behind inches or even feet of snow in the Northeast and parts of Canada. I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
In other news, Trump administration officials say they are following through on a pledge to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. Several leaders, including the Secretary of State, arrived in the Middle East this morning to begin talks with Russia. And back stateside, mass federal worker firings are underway. As Alice Barr reports, those firings include employees with stellar performance views.
Top Trump officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, arriving in Saudi Arabia overnight for negotiations to end Russia's war on Ukraine. After his own trip around the Daytona 500 track, President Trump pressed about Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's role in the peace talks.
He will be involved, yes.
Zelensky indicating he has not been invited to this week's U.S.-Russia meetings, telling NBC's Meet the Press he will not accept any deal made without Ukraine.
And do you feel like you have a seat at the table right now?
I not only count on it, I'm sure
that we have to be there. Otherwise, it's not acceptable.
Two U.S. officials tell NBC News the plan is for separate meetings with each country before bringing Russia and Ukraine together. While here at home, NBC News has learned an IRS employee affiliated with Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is expected to seek access to an IRS system housing sensitive taxpayer information. An administration official says the employee has appropriate security clearances and is looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. Over the weekend, hundreds of federal workers laid off, from the Centers for Disease Control to the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA, according to department spokespeople. And at the Transportation Department, NBC News obtained a termination letter telling dozens of probationary workers they were fired for poor performance, despite most being rated exceptional. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Saturday night was more like Sunday Night Live in a celebration of its 50th anniversary last night. In a nearly 3.5-hour bash, Hollywood's biggest names joined the party to commemorate this milestone in television history. Mark Baker breaks down the highlights and speaks with the stars who built SNL's legacy.
I sang this song with George Harrison.
It was 50 years ago that Paul Simon was there for the dawn of Saturday Night Live.
I was not born then, and neither were my parents.
But Sabrina Carpenter's duet with Simon on Homeward Bound provided musical bookends to launch SNL's Sunday celebration.
It's like our Oscars, Met Gala, Super Bowl.
It's pretty overwhelming, actually, to get to be here to celebrate something that's meant so much to me my entire life.
I'm Steve Martin, Saturday Night Live's newest diversity hire.
A traditional opening monologue led into sketches, often blending cast members from different eras.
Well, you gotta have a lot of money if you're gonna live like I live. I eat 4-cheese lasagna.
Today during rehearsals, I saw Eddie Murphy, then I saw Alec Baldwin, then I saw Bill Murray, and so it just blows your mind, you know?
So did cameos from celebrities in the audience.
I left a scarf here in 1988.
And on stage.
A good mother can also be a bad girl.
Meryl Streep joining Kate McKinnon.
I cried a lot at the 40th with how emo the whole thing was, and so tonight, look out.
Adam Sandler's tribute song,
6 years of our boy Farley,
also stirred emotions.
Being this, whatever club we're all together in is cool. It's a lifetime thing, and I'm very proud.
A sentiment shared by an SNL original.
I'm not one to reflect, and this has caused me to reflect, and it's a nice feeling.
A feeling that was 50 years in the making. Mark Barker, NBC News.
The show also featured a musical performance by Paul McCartney and appearance by Jack Nicholson, who also appeared at the 40th anniversary.
President Trump took to the race at the Daytona 500 on Sunday, bringing high-speed excitement to the race. WUFT's Victoria Perez is live in the studio to tell us more about his race around the track.
President Trump made a trip back to his home state for NASCAR's first Cup of the 2025 season. He took a special drive on the track to start the 500-mile race. The president's motorcade arrived to the speedway by rolling out of the pit road on Sunday afternoon. He led drivers around the track for 2 ceremonial laps in his limousine nicknamed the Beast. The First Lady, his son, and grandson also attended. President Trump's first appearance in Daytona was in 2020, while running for his second term. Former President George Bush also attended in 2004, making Trump the second president to attend the NASCAR race. Reporting live from the studio, Victoria Perez, WUFT News.
Governor Ron DeSantis has announced his support in removing property taxes across Florida. He posted a statement on X saying taxing land and property is the more oppressive and ineffective forms of taxation. The property tax funds Florida's statewide budget for services like police, fire, and schools. The governor says a constitutional amendment would be necessary, but suggested adding an amendment to the ballot to receive a 60% vote from Floridians.
A bill that restricted what flags could be displayed in government buildings and schools is back in the Florida Senate after not passing during the 2024 legislative session. The bill would prevent the displaying of flags that represent, quote, a political viewpoint, including racial, sexual orientation, and gender viewpoint. It does not specifically name flags that would be barred, but State Senator Randy Fine says flags that would be banned include Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ Pride, or those that are pro-Palestine.
The idea here is that the government should not be in the political message business. Politics should be for the politicians. The government's job is to serve the people.
The bill passed its first committee this week with Republicans supporting and Democrats opposing.
The Santa Fe College Teaching Zoo's animal Asian clawed otter family will soon have a new home. The 7 members of the otter family will relocate to their new home at the Memphis Zoo next month. The otters are the first of the interspecies communication program called Fluent Pet Technology to transfer to a new facility. The program utilizes a system of buttons where animals can associate words with actions and objects, like otter and human. The otter's relocation is part of the Association of Zoos and Aquarium Species Survival Plan. You can see the otters until March 2nd. They head to their new home on the 5th.
Mothers in North Central Florida will be able to donate and receive breast milk thanks to a new partnership between HCA Hospital and Mother's Milk Bank of Florida. The milk bank processes, pasteurizes, and distributes breast milk donated for other mothers. The hospital is the first to implement this program in North Central Florida, as breast milk was a huge need for this community. By having these resources available, local moms can use their extra breast milk in a positive way to help babies.
And this breast milk will be utilized by the Mother's Milk Bank of Florida to be able to serve babies in our community who are often in the neonatal ICU or who are medically needy, who are in need of breast milk, to be able to grow safely.
The Breast Milk Bank says every drop is precious. If you're a healthy mother who produces more milk than you needed, you could help other babies by donating your surplus.
Now let's take a live look at our DOT camera at Paynes Prairie to see how the morning traffic is flowing. Traffic is flowing seamlessly along I-75 with bright and clear skies. UF forecaster Rhianan Beatrice is here to tell us about the impact of the incoming cold temperatures.
That's right. So some areas in Florida have seen a huge temperature change over the past 24 hours, with some areas like Ocala and Palatka even seeing a 20 degrees or more of a temperature change this past couple days. So for over the temperatures, you see it's some of that cooler weather. We're seeing 56 degrees in Gainesville, farther south getting up into the 60s, still overall fairly chilly for right now. Over here in campus, it's hard to remember those storms we had yesterday because it's so beautiful outside. Temperature of about 56 degrees, winds of about 6 miles an hour are bringing in those cooler temperatures from that cold air mass to our north. So some of the high temps we're going to see, 63 in Gainesville, 66 in Ocala, fairly mild mid-60s. As we get into Tuesday morning, we're going to see low temperatures dip into the high 30s and low 40s. Some areas may have the potential for frost, but overall we are not expecting any freezing temperatures. Here's this high pressure system coming down from the north, bringing that cool air, colder temperatures, and the low pressure system to the west, which is going to bring some of those storms that we're going to see on Monday. First, those storms are going to come into the Louisiana area. Primary hazards are going to be 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and some quarter-sized hail, but overall still a 1 out of 5 on the severe risk scale. So here we see the future cast. This low pressure system is going to come to the east. Over here Tuesday night, we're going to see those storms affect Louisiana. And then Wednesday is when we're going to see the impacts here in North Central Florida. Localized heavy rain, some flash flooding potential. Going into Wednesday night, we're going to see that storm mostly gone, but still some leftover showers. And then we're going to see on Thursday, those showers will be completely gone and we will have much nicer weather. Over here, this flash flood risk, we're going to see repeated rounds of heavy rain from these thunderstorms, could lead to localized flooding, some isolated storms, but overall still again a 1 risk. Here heading into the weekend forecast, unfortunately Saturday is not going to be a nice day. It's going to be fairly cloudy, still those high 50s, low 60s, and Sunday we're going to see the potential for some rain into the evening, but overall only a small chance. Here in our 7-day outlook, temperature is going to be 73 here on Tuesday, but those temperatures will dip back down into the colder weather we've been seeing today. Wednesday, this chance for some storms, high of 69 degrees, and then the rest of the week we'll see those low 60s. Saturday and Sunday, small chance of rain, about 20%, but overall just a partly cloudy day. And then on Monday, we're going to see temperatures get back up into the mid-60s.
As is the most intense flu season in 15 years, new reports are showing that there have been around 13,000 deaths related to the virus, and 57 of these deaths were children. Mandy Gaither explains the flu symptoms, red flags you shouldn't ignore.
This flu season continues to worsen. Cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are all trending up, according to CDC data.
This is the most severe season that we've seen in terms of numbers of cases in about 15 years.
Dr. Daniel Krystal with Brigham and Women's Hospital says symptoms of flu can include high fever, muscle aches, body pain, and headache. But he says if red flags are present, like a persistently high fever, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, it's time to get emergency help, as it may mean pneumonia is developing.
We don't think that the cases themselves are more severe, or that this strain is causing worse flu than in a typical season. It's just so much more frequent.
Krystal says those at highest risk of getting severely sick are seniors and those with some pre-existing medical conditions like heart disease and lung disease. While flu cases typically peak in February, he says it's still not too late to get protection through vaccination.
Even if you've had flu earlier in the season, you should still get vaccinated because there are two different types of flu that can circulate, and having one type doesn't protect you against the other. So get vaccinated if you haven't been.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
You can also help stop the spread of the virus by keeping your hands and frequently touched surfaces clean, avoiding close contact with those who are sick, and not touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. And new this respiratory virus season, there's an at-home test that you can help use to determine whether you have flu or COVID.
The vaccine maker Zoetis was given a conditional license by the government Friday to develop a vaccine for the bird flu. Since the outbreak in 2022, workers have killed more than 150 million birds infected or exposed to the virus. In 2023, the company created a vaccine for the avian flu to protect California vultures. Other countries already vaccinate their birds against the virus, but the United States has tried to eradicate avian flu instead. Their strategy is now shifting since the bird flu has led to higher prices for eggs and an egg shortage across the country.
Big changes are coming to Denny's as the company plans to shut down up to 90 restaurants this year. That's on top of the 88 locations that are closed in 2024, with a total of 150 expected to be gone by 2025. The company says older, underperforming locations just aren't bringing in enough customers. But it's not all bad news. Denny's is still opening new locations and remodeling others. Rising food costs and inflation have made these tough, but the chain says it's adapting.
Igloo is recalling more than 1 million of its popular coolers due to concerns of possible fingertip amputations. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission said the recall involves 90-quart flip and toe rolling coolers. There have been dozens of reports of tears and bone fractures from the toe handle pinching consumers' fingertips against the cooler. The affected coolers were sold from January 2019 up until last month at retailers such as Target and Costco. Owners are being asked to contact Igloo for a free replacement handle.
Now, look ahead at what's coming up tonight on First at 5 at Channel 5. Alachua County law enforcement is reporting some of the highest resuscitation averages in the state. Why leaders credit this success to fire rescue crews. Plus, a change in the plea for 2 former UF scientists accused of keeping their children in cages. How this impacts their case. And a proposed ordinance in Union County that could ban public smoking. Why some feel leaders are late to the conversation.
Before we go, let's take one last check on the weather with Rhianan.
So we're going to see the temperature on Tuesday, high temperature of about 73 degrees, and then those temperatures are going to get cooler as those storms roll in on Wednesday with a 90% chance of rain. Thursday and Friday, 60 degrees, and then Saturday and Sunday, a 20% chance of rain. We can see the temperature start to slowly increase on Monday. And one big thing to note, on Wednesday as those storms come through, just make sure that you are paying attention to your local alerts to see if there's any flash flooding, and make sure that you are staying safe on the roads.
Thanks for joining us for WFT Midday. We're back here tomorrow for another edition.
We will see you later today for First at 5 on Channel 5. Have a great afternoon.